While you guys are finishing that up, I'm going to go ahead and put on notes.
Please donate your money, songs, read women, Memorial Library, and donate it to Old Singer House. These were your Senator Apache notes for October 4th, 2021. Have a great day, Senator Ohio.
Okay, so what we're going to be doing today is we're working on our end of play brief write. So we're going to be doing the rough draft today. We will finish in class. You're going to submit it by the end of class, and then we are going to have you guys for homework is going to print 2 copies, just like last time. This time I want you guys to actually do it ahead of time, not during class, so that way we have more time to get it done. Nope, not again. Okay, so what I want you guys to do right now, though, is to open up your Padlet for period 2, and to get out your end of play story. Go ahead and do that. So if you go to Canvas and go to last week's module, there's a Padlet assignment on there. So you were supposed to turn in the screenshot. The link to period 2 is on there, so that's how you access it. This one is a kind of plain Padlet from last week. Okay, but still, that's where we're going now. Go to end of play Padlet. And then click on period 2. You might have to refresh it because I just approved them, so you should see everyone's pop up now if you're in period 2. Now, I have these out mostly as backup stories because you technically shouldn't need them because we have all these great quotes in the Padlet that you can look at. But if you really don't see anything on there that you think is going to work for you, you can go to the story if you need to. But just remember that we are on kind of like a time crunch, so we need to make sure that we're staying on track. Okay. So the prompt that you guys are going to be writing about is, what is the significance of conflict in end of play? So specifically, how did conflict transform Rolf throughout the story? Think about his traumatic childhood. How did that change him? Think about how it changed him as a child into adult. What did he become like? And then later, obviously, his experience with Avicenna. What about that conflict? How did that transform him as well? So you're going to be talking about 2 different transformations that he undergoes, as far as what he was like at the beginning, what was he like at the end, how did each conflict transform him, and then how did he change overall. So describe the conflicts, the problems that he goes through, along with how those conflicts transform him as a character. That's what you're talking about. Okay, so we're gonna go step by step again. This is probably the last one we're gonna be this like explicit, which means like as far as like going sentence by sentence. After this, I'm gonna kind of let you guys have a little more freedom. But right now I'm just trying to build up our writing stamina because again last year we didn't really have that stamina built up, so I want to make sure that we're able to write things and not take a year to do it. Okay, so we're gonna start off with our topic sentence, which in the topic sentence you basically should be telling me what are the two conflicts you're going to be discussing and how did they change wrong. Okay, so you tell me what that's about. The rest of the paragraph is you explaining, giving examples, showing me how those conflicts change him, showing him why they had an impact on him. Okay, so but for now, just again, answer the question. What conflicts transformed him and how did he change? I guess I'll let you guys open up the Google Doc if you haven't done that first before I start the timer, so make sure you guys open up the doc. All good? Now let's start the timer. Alright, I'm gonna come around, kind of check where we're at. If you have a question, now's the time to ask me. Like, if you're stuck with the topic sentence, obviously that's an issue because we need to make sure we know what we're gonna talk about in order to do the rest of it.
So
Yeah.
were you talking about his conflict, like what made him change, or would it
Yeah.
be, okay.
Yeah, you're talking about the conflicts that he had and how they changed him. So it's kind of like a two-parter. Okay, so switching back to Rolf, like think about like some of the things that happened to him as a kid, right? Like he had some problems growing up. How do you think that those problems changed him as a character? Like what did they do to him like as an adult? You know, how did they like have probably a negative effect on him, right? So how did they have a negative effect? And then how did like his conflict later was also saying that, how did that change him again? So he's changed a couple of times in it. So you're just talking about like what two conflicts changed him and how did they change him?
Like, we're talking about, like, what?
Basically all you're saying is these two conflicts, whatever you choose, parlay, like have transform parlay, like
But it has to be the two conflicts from when he was little, so like from
it doesn't have to be when he's little. That could be one conflict when he's little and one as an adult. And the whole Ozzy Beta that's a good conflict, right? That definitely transforms him. So I mean, that's probably going to be your second like example. The first example is probably him as a kid. Second example is going to be him as an adult. Okay. Anybody else need guidance? I'm probably not the best one to provide guidance, but you know. Let's go ahead and wrap up that sentence, okay? Okay, so your last sentence should have been talking about like what two conflicts changed him. Again, I would probably say, like I was telling Madison, probably one instance of him as a kid, he had multiple examples of trauma as a child, was probably had an effect on him. And then probably a second conflict was later when he's only Azucena. Now, obviously that's kind of vague because there's different parts of the Azucena thing where he had a conflict. The trying to get the pump, trying to deal with his own emotions as he's talking to her, dealing with her mortality. There's like a lot of different directions you can go with like what specific conflict he has trying to deal with her. Obviously he doesn't have a problem with her. He has a problem with the situation that she's in. But so hopefully you guys got something. Again, if you guys have questions or need anything, ask me. That's why I'm here. I'm here to help. So, okay, your summary sentence or sentences, I would say probably one is fine. 2 sentences maximum. Don't go any more than that. Some people get kind of carried away, like, tell me every little detail about the story. You just need to tell me, who is he? Why is he there? What happened to her? And like, what's like kind of the situation? I would say no more than 2 sentences. 1 will probably be enough. Okay, so yeah.
When we put the story, do we put end of play on the computer?
That is, yeah, that's a, you can just say end of play, so that's fine in the interest of this class. Normally I would say, maybe for your first time that you reference it, you say end of play or we created, but for the rest of the time, you can just say end of play, rather than writing it out every time, like almost like an abbreviated title. Alright, summary. 1, 2 sentences tops. What is it about? next, again, you have a little longer for your quotes and explanations because they will take longer. Just remember that whose words do you start with? Your own. You don't start with the author's. You need to be telling me what's happening in the story at that point. So, again, if you're talking about his childhood, talk about the fact that he's like recalling memories, or he's just like trying to like remember what happened to him as a kid, or technically the narrator is actually the one who's like talking about like what happened to him as a child, but just explain kind of what's happening in the story when the quote happens, and then blend the quote into your own words. Remember, you don't have to have the entire sentence as a quote. You can actually like cut off part of the sentence in order for it to make sense with your words too. So like you can like cut off like the subject of it and then like blend it in like with what you're saying. If you need an example, you can look at my my brief write that I gave you guys, my sample one, if you want to. If not, again, just do your best. This is a rough draft, so it doesn't have to be perfect. But anyways, okay, 5 minutes. Use the Padlet to find your quote. Go. So whatever quote you choose, just talk about like what's happening in the story, like at that moment, like when that quote happens, what's happening. That's basically it. You could start off with a sentence like when Rolf Carlet is thinking about his past, comma, and then like have the quote or something like that. Just so we know what's like what the context is.
This is quote good.
The only thing with it is that it really should be showing me some sort of conflict that he's dealing with. You're showing me like the after part, but I need to say what caused him to be vulnerable. So that's the part you need to find, is what made him vulnerable. It's good to talk about that, but why did he get that way? This last quote right here? Yeah. As long as you explain in your explanation, like what he was like before, or like how that quote shows what he was like before. Cool. I'm not gonna do that. Okay. There you go. Okay. All right, now we're on the analysis. Again, the most important part of your writing, the part that gets you the majority of your grade. So again, this is kind of two parts, or possibly even three, but you should be talking about how does your quote, what conflict is your quote showing? What problem is it showing that Rolf had? Probably as a kid, more than likely, but what was the issue that this quote shows? How did it transform him? That's the part that, again, I feel like a lot of people are going to miss out on. Is like cause and effect. He had this problem, so it changed him in this way, right? So the first sentence focused on what was the conflict? Why was it a conflict? Why was it a problem for him? Why was it, something that he felt like was, troubling to him? And then how did it change him? Like what changed about him as a result of it? Why did it change him? So that's kind of what you should be focusing. I would say at least, again, it has to be at least 2 sentences. If it's 1 sentence, it's definitely not enough analysis. It means you're probably only focusing on what the conflict is or how he transformed, but not both. That's why you need at least 2 sentences, because you have to do both of those things. Okay. So also really quick too, let me go back to this. Just remember that after your quote, after the last quotation mark in parentheses, you should have her last name, Amanda, and then the page number. So 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't write the words or letters page in there at all. It's just literally the number by itself. The period will go at the very end. It doesn't go in the quotation mark. The only time you have some sort of punctuation in the quotation mark is if it's a question mark or an exclamation point. If it's just a period, you put it here. But it's the reason why you have a period out there is to show that this parentheses is part of the quote. All right, we go back to the explanation. 5 minutes, at least 2 sentences. Yeah. All right, well then, David Diaz. Then I would talk about what made him that way then. Yeah, so just make sure in your explanation you talk about what made him that way. Let's hear. William? I don't believe so. Okay. Okay, for what is it for? Yeah. Okay. I see. Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Bye. Okay. All right, so you guys should be pretty much wrapped up with your 2 to 3 sentences. Next, we're on to the transition sentence, and that's basically, again, there's 3 ways to transition. Comparing, so that's how they're similar. Contrasting, how they're different. Or building, adding new information to something you already discussed. So for this one, you're probably going to be contrasting, talking about how the first conflict you talked about was different from the next conflict. So basically, how am I getting from the first quote to the second quote? What's different about the two? What connections are you making? So that's what you're doing for the transition sentence. Just one sentence. That's why it's only 2 minutes. Okay, so your second quote, this should probably be focused on more of like the Azucena conflict. The first one, and I know I talked to a couple of you and you guys did things a little bit different, that's okay. But I'd say the first quote was probably gonna be from his experiences as a child. This quote should probably be something more along the lines of his experience with Azucena. So again, go ahead and find another quote. Probably gonna be the second quote in the Padlet. If you looked at like, again, there was like 3 different numbers, it would probably be the third one, so. Okay. All right. Explanation time. So again, for this one, you might need it to be a little bit longer. So you need to be talking about what was the conflict, how did it transform him, and then maybe like get a little bit bigger with the picture as far as like how did he change overall now? How did this last conflict change him overall as a person? So I would say if you wrote 2 sentences for your first explanation, this one probably should be 3. If you wrote 3 for the first one, I'm not saying add a 4th sentence, just make sure that you're adding just as much, if not more detail. It should not be shorter than your first explanation. So. Okay, last one, and right now you should be at about at least 9 sentences. If you don't, that means you're missing one of the different types of sentences, or you didn't write enough of your explanation. Everything is 1 sentence, other than a minimum of 1 sentence minus the explanation, so you again should be at 9 sentences. If not, like I said, you'll have a little bit of time at the end of class to go back and finish up. But concluding statement, this is where we put in what we've learned into like the larger like real life situation. So how could somebody what could somebody learn or take away from this as far as like, how does conflict transform people? What should people know about that? Why is it important to know that conflict changes people? What kind of outlook do you want people to have as a result of that? So those are just some of the different ways you could end your reframe. So last 2 minutes, and then we will be submitting these. Okay, so really quick, I want to just kind of reflect on what you guys accomplished because it's pretty awesome actually. Now, I know I paused between each sentence to talk to you about like what the expectations were, give you advice and all that, but let's just see how quickly you guys technically did this. So 2 minutes, 4, 9, if my math is wrong, correct me please. 14, 16, 21, 26, I haven't had to think about that too long, and then 28. So technically, if I hadn't shut up, and not talked to you like the entire time, this would have taken me less than half an hour to do at the speed that you guys were doing it. Now, I've seen people when they do brief writes, it'll take them like forever to do it, but I just want you guys to be aware that's how quickly you guys should be able to get it done. If I give you a brief write, it really should be able to be completed in half an hour. Yes, I know you already had your quotes, picked out. So if you didn't have your quotes, obviously I would give you extra time in addition to the half an hour to find the quotes. But I think that again, sometimes you guys don't give yourself enough credit as far as like how your writing ability. So you guys did pretty good. So good job. Okay, so what you guys, basically the rest of class, we have about 10 minutes left roughly. Basically just do any cleaning up because we did go kind of fast. If there's like anything that you want to add or anything like that. Otherwise, go ahead and submit your draft to Canvas. It'll be in this week's module under Monday for end of play rough draft. Yeah. The transition. So again, what is going to be different between what you were talking about and what you're about to talk about? So what's the difference between the first conflict and the next conflict you're going to talk about? My arm is sore. I got a third shot yesterday of the vaccine, so it's like I don't have any other symptoms, but it's just my arm is sore today. What's up? Okay, no worries. So the conclusion is just basically like, what is like the important message to take away from this umbrella? So think about like, what about problems and how they change people? What's good to know about that? So like next time you face a problem, how should you react? Yeah. All right, right now I got about 6 of you who've submitted it. David, obviously, I know you were about that period, so if you can try and get it done tonight, great. If not, just make sure that it's done by tomorrow sometime, okay?